Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Rachel, and in this video I am sharing some pretty tasty and pretty ordinary meals that my family had for dinner this week. The first thing that I'm doing is getting these red potatoes all washed up, and I'm going to slice them up along with some garlic and get them ready to go into a frying pan. The second thing that I'm going to do is get my butter and my olive oil heated up while I finish getting this garlic chopped up really finely. Now, my garlic had shoots on it. I guess it was ready to be planted in the garden, but I did Google it to make sure it was safe to eat. And I just got my potatoes chopped up into uniform pieces. So some were quartered and some were halved. But you just want to make sure that they're all about the same size so that they cook the same. And once my oil and my butter was all nice and hot in my cast iron skillet, I just added those potatoes right in and got them all settled. I'm going to season them up and just give them a good fry and put a lid on them and let them get all nice and soft.
You better turn up. You better be there when I shake. Watch me rocking if I can't stop. If I should fall, just go ahead. Go and catch me, baby. Ooh.
Next, I had some leftover onion slices from when we made burgers, so I just gave them a rough chop and tossed them right in as well. And then I seasoned up these potatoes with some Badia Complete seasoning. And I just put the lid on so they can get nice and steamy. After a few minutes, I came in and gave them a turn. As you can see, the bottom of the potatoes are getting nice and brown. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. Isn't that just lovely? I really do love me some potatoes.
You better grab that tambourine. Bring the bass, we might be.
Bill was actually cooking dinner on this night because it was Mother's Day, but sometimes I take over on certain things like those potatoes. So here he is getting these steaks seasoned up, and I want to say that he is using some meat tenderizer, some steak seasoning, and some black pepper, and that's probably it. And he says the trick is making sure that you season both sides, of course. So I didn't show all that, but that's exactly what he did, is seasoned both sides before he cooked them in the cast iron skillet on top of the stove. And on Mother's Day, I got sick and I wasn't feeling well at all, so I didn't have any visitors. It was just us at home, and he was such a sweetheart and brought me some roses home from Walmart when he was buying steak. And so here I'm just getting them out of their package and into a vase full of water, and I just love roses, and he knows that, so I just thought it was very sweet of him to bring me home roses, knowing that it wasn't the ideal Mother's Day for me and that I wasn't feeling well. And last, we were just plating up our food, and this is what was for dinner on Mother's Day. For this next meal, I am stuffing some boneless, skinless chicken breasts. And to start off, I am just trimming these chicken breasts up, and then I'm going to, I don't know what you would call it. I'm cutting off like what these shaggy pieces of chicken are. I mean, there's a lot of good meat still there, so I'm just going to cut up the pieces that are still usable, and I'm going to set them aside because I will use those in like a stir fry or something. And so I'm cutting off like maybe a third of the bottom part of this chicken breast. They are so big, and I don't want them to be that thick because I am stuffing these chicken breasts, and I want to make sure that they are able to get cooked all the way through. And so I'm just getting kind of the yucky stuff that comes off of the chicken. And I did wash these up ahead of time, so they've been kind of washed off in the sink. And then now I'm getting all the little pieces of fat and the gross yucky stuff that you don't want to end up on your plate. So I'm getting rid of that stuff. And as you can see, these are really big. And like I said, I want to keep the parts that I cut off and just dice them up into bite-sized pieces so that I can use later on. I'm going to put those in my freezer. That way they will keep longer. And I did get a food saver from my daughter for Mother's Day, so I'm using it today to get these chicken breasts in some marinade, and then I'm going to vacuum seal them so that I can just put them right in the freezer, and when I'm ready to use them, I can just pull them out and thaw them out and use them. And then for the rest of the chicken, I'm putting it in the bowl that came with this little food saver tool, and I'm putting it on the marinade function and just gonna put that in the fridge until I'm ready to use it later. For the filling for these chicken breasts, I'm using a block of softened cream cheese, and I'm still using those onion rings from Burger Night. So I microwaved this cream cheese to get it soft, and I'm just spreading it around, and I'm going to add some garlic powder to this. So basically what I'm making to stuff these chicken breasts with is pretty much a cheese ball, like a ham and cheese ball like you would make for a party around the holidays. And I'm just taking my kitchen shears and I am just cutting up these little onion rings into little diced pieces. I don't know why I did it like that. It just was easier for me. Sometimes I do use my scissors on things like this ham. So I'm giving this Black Forest ham some bangs and then just trimming them down into pieces into the bowl. And so once I have my onions and my ham and my garlic powder all ready to stir up, then I just got that mixed together, and I just did not feel like shredding cheese on this day. Like I said, I was not feeling well still, so I just put some chunks of Velveeta in it. And then for a really quick side dish, I just cleaned up this asparagus, and then I'm going to put that in a cast iron skillet and let it cook slow and get kind of charred on the edges. I used some of this breakfast sausage in a pan with some more onions, of course, and some of this Kinder's brown sugar seasoning. And this is just a quick way to make some baked beans. I am getting out my chicken breast while my meat is cooking, and I'm getting ready to stuff it with that filling that I made earlier of cream cheese, ham, onions and garlic powder and Velveeta. And the first one I did overstuff it, so on the rest of them I like chilled out a little bit and didn't put as much in, so I kind of had to like mush it in there and kind of mold it to get that chicken to close up. And I used a toothpick to make sure that the ends are sealed shut and all that filling stays on the inside. And then I just did the same thing with the other 4 pieces. And that's the one good thing about this filling, is that you can kind of mold it and smush it. So it made stuffing these chicken breasts a little bit easier. Next, I just placed each chicken breast into a cast iron skillet with some olive oil, and I'm just going to brown each piece on both sides until they are nice and golden, and then I will put the whole pan into the oven and finish cooking on 375. So in my pan with the sausage and onions, I added a can of baked beans. I put some garlic powder and a couple tablespoons of brown sugar, and then I'm just going to let those simmer on low while the chicken is cooking. And this is just a really easy way to make baked beans. And so, like I said, the chicken's going to go into the oven after I get it partially cooked. And then here is how it turned out. Now, you can make a sauce to put on this chicken, but I ended up putting hot sauce on mine, of course. And for Tuesday's dinner, you know what it means if it's Tuesday, right? It means that's my late night at work. And this was my first day back to work since being sick. And so it's going to be a crock pot meal. And while I'm making this meal, I'm also making something for myself for breakfast. This is early in the morning that I'm getting this started, of course. I had just taken Cameron to school. I'm getting my crock pot liner in my crock pot. I have the rest of that breakfast sausage browning up with all of the pieces of bell pepper that I ever put in my freezer. And so I'm adding my tortellini to the crock pot, and I'm getting my crock pot warmed up. I put in a half of this can of pasta sauce. It's the tomato and basil. I'm shredding up my mozzarella cheese. And I'm going to use some of the bell pepper and sausage mixture in my breakfast burrito. And I have a couple of eggs that I scrambled up in the microwave. I really never do that, but it seemed like a fast and easy way to get this done pretty quickly without dirtying up a whole other pan, if you know what I mean. And so I'm just doing some salt and some pepper, a little bit of that mozzarella cheese that I shredded for the other thing, and some pico de gallo. I almost said pinko de gallo. But anyway, I'm putting a little bit of that on top of my burrito, and voila, some hot sauce. And if you're like me and you're cooking in the morning, then you know what it is when you have to stop midway, make your breakfast or your lunch or whatever, have a bite, and then carry on, right? So I added that rest of that sausage and pepper mixture into the tortellini, and then I thought, why not? Let's get this pico de gallo in there too, just to get it used up, because that's a lot of pico for just me. I'm the only one that eats this, so now everyone's gonna eat it, right? So anyway, I put the rest of that can of sauce in there. I just dumped in all of that cheese. So that's the whole block of cheese. I put the lid on it, and while I ate my burrito, I just cooked up the remainder of meat, which was a pound of ground sirloin. As you may know, I ended up getting ground sirloin with my grocery order, which is fine. Just means I don't have to drain it, right? So I'm just going to get that all stirred around in the pot. And this looks good already. I mean, in that short amount of time, those tortellinis had cooked up some, and everything was getting nice and warm. So I'm just going to put the lid on, and I put it on low. And I did get to come home on my break and have dinner at home. And it was so good. It was so nice to have it waiting on me. It was so ooey gooey and cheesy. And those peppers in there were just the right touch. I enjoyed having the sausage. Oh, but wait, I almost forgot the Parmesan cheese. Anyway, that was our dinner for Tuesday. It's breakfast for dinner night, which always seems to fall on a Wednesday for us, and I am just cooking up some corned beef hash in a skillet. In another smaller frying pan, I am just sauteing some thinly sliced onions. And of course, my husband had to have bacon, so he picked up some bacon, and we're getting that cooked up. And then in the pan that I put the onions in, once they are all nice and tender, I took them out, and I'm adding my eggs, beaten eggs, so that I can get these omelets starting. And all I'm doing is letting them cook on the bottom, and then I'm just turning the pan every so often to get the uncooked part rolled down to the pan where it can cook. And I like to salt and pepper the inside of my omelet so that you get that flavor all the way through. Nothing like getting an omelet and having it be all bland on the inside. So you want to make sure that you're lifting and pouring the egg and that you get all of that egg cooked through. This is how I make an omelet. I know some people do it differently, like putting a lid on the pan or flipping the omelet over, but this is just how I do it. Once my egg is all the way cooked and there's no slimy pieces left, I then put the onions back into 1/2 of this omelet, and then I'm going to put some of that corned beef hash on top of those onions. This is my husband, so I'm putting lots of onions on his because he loves them. And then I'm just using sliced Kraft singles and just ripping them into pieces and laying it all over on top of that hash. And then, like I said, more onions on top of that. And then I'm going to fold the other side of the egg on top of the side that has all the filling on it. And that is how I make an omelet. And now we like our omelets to have that golden brown color, so that's just the way that I've always made them. And then I just kind of push everything back into the omelet, and then here is what it looks like all finished. When my son Grant was a teenager, I told him that when he learned how to make an omelet, then he was ready to move out on his own. And so he made that his mission was to learn how to make an omelet, and now he can do it. So we had some of that bacon. This is my husband's plate. I am making his with a little bit more of that hash on the side and some bacon. And don't judge me on my bacon. It is a little bit burnt, but luckily we like burnt food. And then here is my plate. I made my omelet a little smaller. Theirs had 3 eggs and mine had 2, but I am having some toast with some butter and jelly. And then I have a piece of that bacon on the side there. And that is our breakfast for dinner on a Wednesday night, because we always seem to have breakfast for dinner on a Wednesday. I think that's just when I don't feel like cooking and I always turn to eggs. On this night, we had fast food because sometimes that is just how life goes. And I had a Reuben from Arby's with some curly fries. And on this night, I am making the original budget-friendly meal that I believe everybody leans on in times when either you don't know what to make or you don't want to spend a lot of money. It's Sloppy Joe's. And I am just cooking up lots of onions and bell peppers in my ground beef. I added some crushed red peppers, and right here I am just adding some salt and some pepper, and I'm using my hand to measure everything. We like lots of ground black pepper. And then here is the onion powder. No, that wasn't onion powder, it was garlic powder. And I'm putting in some paprika also. And so once I get all of my meat and seasonings and peppers and onions all cooked up and drained, then I am adding ketchup, and it ended up being about a cup of ketchup and then a little bit of mustard. You don't want to do too much of that, just enough to give it flavor. And then I'm adding some brown sugar. Looks like I used about 4 tablespoons of brown sugar, and I'm going to give it all a mix. And then honestly, I did play around with the ketchup and I added a little bit more. This is a lot of meat, and we had leftovers, which was the plan, so that we can use them down the road. And so anyway, I just played around with the consistency of the sauce, and I did go back and add a couple more squirts of the ketchup. And here I'm just boiling up some water so that we can make some shells and cheese. I have my noodles drained. I put the 1 pack of the cheese sauce in the bottom of the pan, then added my hot noodles back into the pan, and then the other pouch on top of that, just so that it was a little bit easier to get it all mixed in. And I'm just getting that cheese all mixed in. The boys really do love this shells and cheddar, so I got it because they've been asking me, when are we going to have it, can we have it, that kind of thing. So tonight's the night, and I just mixed that all together and added black pepper to it, like we do everything, I guess. It really is my favorite. I love black pepper on everything. So that is the side dish for these sloppy joes. And my sons were happy. So if they're happy, I'm happy. And I mean, sometimes you say, I love you with food, right? On this night, I did make a dessert. Well, kind of, sort of. It is really warm now, and there's no way I'm going to turn on my oven. If you know me, I don't turn on the oven in the summertime if I can avoid it. So I ordered a pound cake from Walmart, and they substituted it with the Sara Lee brand, so that was good for us, right? And I am just slicing up some strawberries and then taking a masher to them just to get them nice and kind of saucy. And then I just put a little bit of sugar in there to sweeten them up, and I didn't even use the whole capful, not very much, but I just put the pound cake down in the bottom of the dish and then topped it with the strawberry mixture, kind of like a strawberry shortcake. And this was a perfect summertime dessert, kind of something to have that's cool without turning on your oven and baking something. So I put some vanilla ice cream on there, and I'm going to act like I meant for that one to flop off. So just because it did, I just added a couple more scoops, and I'm just using my cookie dough scoop, so it's a little bit smaller, and then some sugar-free whipped topping, and that is that. Everybody just really loved this, and it just hit the spot on a really hot day. And that's it for this What's for Dinner. If you had fun here today, please consider hitting the subscribe button so you can see more of my videos in the future. Bye for now.